Tracy Take. I am your co-host Tyler, and here with my brother Ryan, and we are starting probably my favorite section of like what we do within the Tracy Take, and that is the pre-draft evaluations. And so we're going to start all that off with the first mock draft going into the 2023 offseason. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great offseason. Always fun to kind of see what the teams are going to do and what we think they should do and why our opinions don't matter. So, but before we get into that, if this is your first time here, welcome. Ryan and I, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we just love growing the community. We're, I believe, last we checked, at 345 subscribers. We've already been wanting to put out a lot more content in 2023, and we've increased our subscribers by about 15 to 20 just in this year alone. So we want to keep growing the community, want to keep putting out new content. So subscribe to this video, like this video, and also comment on what you think our picks you liked and which ones you didn't like. I'm sure there's probably going to be a bunch you didn't like because, well, I guess maybe at least on my end, because I guess I just started kind of reviewing within the past couple of days. But Ryan, I'll quit talking. Let's get into it. Ryan, describe the format of what we're going to be doing tonight.
So you are going to be going first with your mock draft with all 31 picks. We are going to go through those picks. I will be making comments on it. And then at the very end, we will discuss and review your picks. And then we will reset and we will go into my picks. And then we have a little bonus segment for everybody at the very end there. So
I like it.
Let's get right into it.
It's looking good. Yeah, let's just get right into it. And so let me pull this up. Let me start it on mine. Yeah.
So I had to make that full screen.
No, you're good.
And share.
All right. Technology.
I know. I think that looks pretty nice, if I do say so myself. So we are going to be using Pro Football Focus's draft tool. This is not our board, just a disclaimer. We will be making our own picks. So with that being said, Tyler, the Chicago Bears are on the clock. So also, one last thing. We're not going to be doing trades.
Yes, this is very standard on what we think they can do. I think that would be interesting, maybe just throw out like a potential spot where a team could trade. Well, I guess any team could trade. And we're going to get to this at the end of the episode because I want to get back to what the Bears will probably end, what we think they'll end up doing with their first pick, because they're in a very luxurious spot. They can either get Will Anderson, Jalen Carter. They can get a king's ransom for a team trying to find a quarterback. And I love hearing these rumors about how the Bears might draft a quarterback if they're not sold on Justin Fields. I mean, I think Justin Fields still has room to grow, but they're not. They're going to roll with Justin Fields. So let's just throw that out of the water. For me, I'm going with I like to think the consensus best player in this draft. Bears need everything. Yeah, okay, that's fair. No, if this isn't a dynasty draft, I'm going to go with Will Anderson Jr., edge rusher from Alabama. Bears need absolutely everything. If Bijan Robinson's still there, the next time they pick, I absolutely think that they should take him. But no, I think Will Anderson is going to be the best pick here if they don't get any trades. I mean, I can honestly see them going with Jalen Carter as well. It's whoever they like more, and I just like Will Anderson best. So,
yeah, no, I agree. Same for me. Will Anderson is 1A, 1B with Jalen Carter. It's not, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah. I don't think. I think there's like only two for sure, sure picks in this draft, or at least just in this these first couple of minutes here, and it's one of those two. Even Bryce Young and CJ Stroud both come with doubts, even if we were wanting to take a pick. So. That being said, though, Houston Texans, they have a new head coach, DeMeco Ryans, the defensive coordinator from the 49ers.
Yep.
So I believe he's going to want to come in, put his own thumbprint on everything. I think he's going to go with Bryce Young here. As much as I am impressed with CJ Stroud, even after being at the game, and there's even a family text message out there saying, you heard it here first overall pick, Houston Texans pick CJ Stroud. Maybe I was a little excited in the moment. Not that I dislike it, but curious to kind of see how the offseason progresses with them. So next up, the Arizona Cardinals picking third overall. right here, this to me is a no doubter. They also need a lot of help. And for me, I think Jalen Carter is going to be the best guy right there.
Yeah.
An edge rusher would be great, but I think Jalen Carter is way better value wise than Miles Murphy or Tyree Wilson, who might fill a need, since J.J. Watt has retired. But Jalen Carter is arguably, as you said, number one prospect, 1B into this draft. So I'm going with Jalen Carter. Then for me, Colts are now picking number 4. They really need to thank Lovie Smith for him going for 2 at the end of regulation in week 18, because it bumped them down to the number 4 spot, which really then put them in play for either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. In this scenario, CJ Stroud is available. I find it hilarious that they have Will Levis ranked above CJ Stroud. No offense to Will Levis, but
it's not even close.
I don't even think it's close. Like, I think CJ Stroud needs to grow a little bit, but far and away a much better passer than Will Levis. I'm curious on why he's ranked number 3. I'm very curious on that.
Yeah. So I don't know. So the Colts going with CJ Stroud.
Colts going with CJ Stroud. Okay. Absolutely. Now it's interesting. So that's like doing all these mock drafts. Now those 4 players for me go first every single time.
Yeah.
From here, now if you're the Seahawks, there's a lot of different ways you can go. They need defensive help. They need offensive line help. I'm going to go with Miles Murphy here. He is the next edge rusher on my board. Him and Tyree Wilson have almost like the same physical traits, height-wise and weight-wise. They're very similar. I'm going with Miles Murphy. I believe he's about 2 years younger than Tyree Wilson. Okay. So that's why I'm going towards Miles Murphy. In my opinion, I don't see too much of a difference outside.
To me, it's in the same way Will Anderson are 1A and 1B. Tyree Wilson and Miles Murphy are 2A, 2B.
Yeah.
They're very similar prospects. Miles Murphy is a little younger. I think Tyree Wilson plays with a little bit heavier hands. And he might be a little bit more versatile scheme-wise. But again, Miles Murphy's 2 years younger. So you get the extra 2 years of development. So.
Extra 2 years of development. And then also, I think if you want to re-sign him again, then he'll be in his prime for a longer period of time with the Seahawks. So, but that being said, though, I mean, I could honestly see them going with Tyree Wilson here as well. Could also see them going with Brian Breezy as well. But moving up next, though, so now the Lions, their first pick in the first round, they're picking 6 overall thanks to the magnificent trade with the Los Angeles Rams. There's a lot of different ways they can go here. Obviously, defense, I think, is going to be a defensive draft. Maybe they will draft 1 receiver in the 7th round in this draft. Other than that, I think it should almost be defense exclusive for the Lions because they're pretty set on offense. And I honestly thought about a lot of different ways to go with the Lions here. And you've already gotten the top 2 edge rushers off the board. You have your premier edge rusher with Aiden Hutchinson as well, and you'll be able to get him help later on in the draft. There's some good help in this draft. And so for me, I'm going to go a little different around here maybe than what the Lions what a lot of people think the Lions might do here. I already see your mouse moving down a little bit. I'm going to go with Devin Witherspoon. I have him as the top corner in this draft. They need secondary help, especially if they're going to be going up against Justin Jefferson, Minnesota Vikings. If Jordan Love takes over at the Packers, they're going to want to add a lot of receiver help with him. And as Justin Field keeps growing, that you're going to need a corner who can go down, play man coverage with whatever weak receivers the Bears have, and then also be able to come up and tackle Fields once he breaks loose. So I'm going to go with Witherspoon here.
No, I agree. That Detroit defense played a lot better in the second half than they did in the first half. However,
ironically, they fired their secondary coach as well once when they made that shift.
And so I think adding a corner opposite Jeff Okudah would be really beneficial because a lot of the pressure that they were generating was like true pressure. They had almost 0 coverage sacks. So adding a corner, I think, just makes that defensive front even better.
When reviewing Witherspoon's just stats overall, he's by far statistically last year the best corner. I think he gave up only 200 something yards, I think, and he played press coverage most of the time.
Yeah.
And so for me, I mean, that's what you're looking for. And they're going to be able to address the defensive line and other defensive areas all throughout the draft.
He's 6 foot, like 183 pounds. You'd like to see him add a little bit more weight, but he plays so much bigger than that. He can be a boundary corner in the NFL. Press, like you said, press technique all throughout college. Very impressive.
So. I can honestly see, because there's 4 corners for sure going in the first round. Well, not for sure, but him, Christian Gonzalez, who we see here, and then if we scroll down, Cam Smith with South Carolina and Joey Porter from Penn State.
Yeah.
Those are going to be the top 4 guys, and maybe Cam Smith, Joey Porter won't come up, but I give a lot of, maybe it's just me, but like Cam Smith, he did very well against SEC talent, and a lot of SEC receivers are some of the top receivers in the league.
Yeah.
So going up against them, it's NFL talent that he's going up against. So maybe he'll rise as the offseason progresses.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about Devin Witherspoon, his matchup against Marvin Harrison Jr. was very impressive. They had some really good battles, and Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe, was the Blitnikoff Award winner this year.
Yeah, he should have been.
Just a very impressive season by Devin Witherspoon.
Actually, I don't think he was. I thought Jordan Addison won it. We'll have to double check that. But
yeah, I think Addison won it last year.
Okay. Moving on though now to the Raiders, and this is another one. I for me am still just being picked number 7th overall. You kind of want to. My viewpoint on it is, when it comes to picking a quarterback, is you want to kind of know what you have, and obviously there's still going to be some developmental stuff. And for me, I'm just not seeing it yet, and I don't know where the Raiders are going to go. If they're going to stick with Jarrett Stidham, there's going to be, or if they're going to stick with Derek Carr. Sorry,
I think that ship might have sailed.
I think that ship might have sailed as well, but maybe they get Jimmy Garoppolo with the trade. There's going to be other quarterbacks that are going to be out on the market, and so for me, they still need to solidify that offensive line. And Peter Skoronski is the best offensive line member of this draft as right now. Very versatile. He dominated, and I would say dominated, played against top premier talent in the NFL right now in college. Aiden Hutchinson is the best example. It kind of shut him out of that game when they played last year. I also think, too, he's versatile. He's a little bit on the smaller side, so he might be able to switch inside for guard. So I'm going to go with Peter Skoronski on this pick.
Okay.
So
I like that. He is a little smaller than the other top tackles, but his tape is phenomenal.
Well, and that's where it's like he seems very pure, and if they need to kick him inside, I think he could also make a really good guard in the NFL as well. Huge merit as well to Paris Johnson also being picked here. So for me now, just with the way this has worked out, and I've tried to do my best also not being biased when picking the Falcons here, or also then with some of my other previous picks getting up to this point. Tyree Wilson is the obvious pick here. Atlanta's pass rush hasn't been good since Sherman invaded. And so I think they need to go with Tyree Wilson here. Falcons are kind of in a pretty easy spot, I think, at 8th. I don't think that there's a player that they could go wrong with, even if they go with Brian Breezy, Paris Johnson, or even Brian Branch. And safety is kind of secure with the Falcons, but still there's a lot of other spots, or even go with Christian Gonzalez as well. I think they're just going to be kind of best player available. And in this scenario, Tyree Wilson falls to them. And I think that they go with them. I just don't want them to take a quarterback.
At 8, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are not worth it. If you guys want to trade back and take them in the late teens, then maybe. But that's a discussion for a different day.
True. So. And it's as 8, they are not worth it. But at 9, they're worth it for the Carolina Panthers. I think that they're going to roll with Sam Darnold for another year and maybe even 2 years. And I think Anthony Richardson has the tools that I think that they that could develop into an NFL quarterback. So I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson here at number 9. I think with the Panthers, I think I've picked a different player every single time. And so, but here, I guess I'm just feeling Anthony Richardson, someone to groom into, because they're going to be in a rebuilding year for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. Anthony Richardson has the best highlight reel of any of the quarterbacks. It's just his lowlights are not good. He misses a lot of passes, and he just does a lot of the small fundamental things wrong. However, I think if you go to a situation where he can sit for a whole year, work on all those small things, and then come in 2024, I think that would be extremely beneficial for him.
Yeah.
I personally, if I was going to pick a quarterback, Will Levis is a little bit more fine-tuned than him, but he does not have the physical tools that Anthony Richardson has. So you're taking a lottery ticket there.
Yeah, I agree with that. So moving on now, though, to the 10th pick, the Eagles' first pick in the first round. They're picking 10th overall thanks to the trade with the Saints for Chris Olave last year. A lot of different routes. Eagles are, playing with house money in this pick. You got a top 10 pick and you're in the Super Bowl. It's funny, I see receiver on there. I don't really see, maybe just for depth, but receiver is not really going to be an option for them, at least, especially in the first round.
Receivers this year.
I know. And if they really want to get a receiver, which they could, there's going to be plenty in the third round, even second round, maybe.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm surprised that they're not saying here, though, is they're really good at corner right now, but they're getting a little bit older. And so maybe having and adding some depth, I don't think it hurts to add any depth. And so with this kind of lottery pick here, I'm going to go with Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. I think he's a clear number 2. And with the division that they're in going up against Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, if they're going to keep on winning, they're going to be playing against a lot of top offenses. And so I think growing a young cornerback like that to be your number 1 or to at minimum be a solid number 3, number 2 corner, will I think go far.
Yeah. And I think Darius Slay is a free agent this year. So I think corner is good there. I would look for them to possibly go with like a Cam Smith. I think Cam Smith or Joey Porter Jr. might be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Might be closer to what I think Darius Slay brings, whereas Christian Gonzalez is extremely physical. So he kind of matches the personality of the team maybe more. So I don't know. It's an interesting pick. It's also, again, it's like 1A through D with those corners. Like it's whoever you want. Yeah.
That's from what I've seen is I think I can make an argument why any of those corners will rise or fall. As well. Like even when you mentioned with Devin Witherspoon, clear number 1 statistically, but he is a little bit on the smaller side. And so he can easily beef up as well. But now moving on to the Tennessee Titans here. For me, Titans I think are going to be rebuilding. You still have Derrick Henry, so maybe they'll kind of do a pseudo rebuild. But they need offensive line help all the time, it seems. And with Taylor Lewan, who unfortunately is a great tackle, but I think over the past 3 seasons, I don't think he's played a full season's worth of games. Yeah. So with Paris Johnson still sitting here, he is my number 2 in this draft for tackles. He also has experience at guard play as well. He played right guard before he played left tackle this year at Ohio State. So you can move him around. So I'm going to go with Paris Johnson here, going to the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right pick. You're most likely going to have Malik Willis coming in this year. Get a nice athletic offensive tackle for Derrick Henry to run behind. So
maybe. That's another video. Maybe they roll with Josh Dobbs. I think Ryan Tannehill still has 1 year left on his contract. I don't know what the cap hit would be if they just cut him. But we'll definitely have to see. I will say also another thing too, huge merit, I think, taking the first receiver off the board here at this position.
Definitely.
I wasn't sure if they were going to or not. But and now kind of with that being said, the first receiver will come off the board here. I actually Brandon Cooks, I think, is one of the most underrated receivers in the league. And here, I think there's a lot of different ways that they can go. Personally, for me, when I see Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think he's only this low because of I think he only played 2 or 3 games this season. And Quentin Johnson, to me, has a lot of potential, but statistically, he didn't really jump out at me this season. Playing against Big 12, Big 12 has weak defenses. He really only had 2 or 3 games in the regular season where he blew up. Other than that, kind of low, kind of just below average type games. And he did have Max Duggan throwing to him, so it wasn't like it was an elite quarterback. But for me, I'm going to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba, a receiver that at the time when Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith were all there at the same time, both Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson said that Jackson Smith was the better receiver. And Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are doing pretty well, I think, in the NFL after their rookie.
And for Bryce Young, especially with the Texans still somewhat rebuilding that offensive line, Jackson Smith-Njigba is the perfect receiver that I think complements Bryce Young's ability to get the ball out quickly. Yeah. And so like you'll have Brandon Cooks on the outside, Nico Collins on the other, and then in the slot you can have Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's not an elite athlete, but he's extremely quick and gets separation very, very quickly. Yeah. And can create space over the middle. So I think that's a really good fit for Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's a great first round haul for the Texans.
Oh, I mean, I think that they'll be after Thursday night, day one, a Bryce Young and then Jackson Smith. I mean, I don't think that you can be too upset.
No. And John Mechie's coming back next year. So
yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. I'm glad to hear that he's doing well also. So moving on now to the Jets. This one was kind of tough for me because look at this, and the one I think if you're them, you have Quinnen Williams on who's dominating the interior line.
Yeah,
and Brian Breezy falls all the way down to him. I find it hard not to, if this happens, that they don't take Brian Breezy here, and then you have a stout interior defensive line.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with him here. I don't think they could go wrong with Brian Branch, and maybe even bolster up that secondary even more. Maybe go with Lucas Van Ness. But for me, in this scenario, though, Brian Breezy falling all the way to 13 for them, I think they'll be very happy. I think they will run up to the stand to be like, we have our pick.
No, I know. I like that. That's a good pick because as a Patriots fan, I would hate that. I don't think Lucas Van Ness really fits their system. They kind of run a 4-3 with more athletic linebackers, and he's a edge hybrid, right? He could play the edge in a 3-4 or the edge in a 4-3, and he doesn't really. They don't really run that scheme versatility. In New York, they're pretty set. So, and Brian Breezy, I think, is a great pick there.
And with Quinnen Williams taking up so much attention, I think it will allow Breezy to get even more pressure up the middle.
Yeah.
And so because he's very quick, he's a little light for a defensive tackle, but it allows for a lot of quickness. So for me, I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, but for me and how this is drawn out, I'm surprised receiver is not one of the top needs that PFF offers.
Well, they also have quarterback as a top need.
I mean, maybe it was just an error, but for me, Quentin Johnson sitting here, though, I mean, I think you have to give some weapons to Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien. So I'm going to go Quentin Johnson. That's not really that tough of a pick for me. Yeah. To the Packers now, this is another tough one because I know Robert Tonyan he's getting older, but also I think they're wanting to add just another weapon to the litany or to the Packers offense, especially if it seems like Jordan Love might be the guy taking over the reins. Michael Myers, the number one tight end in this class. They can maybe go with Jordan Addison, but I think they spent so money. Christian Watson really developed. Romeo Doubs started to develop. I think they can maybe sign another receiver in free agency. So I'm going to go with Michael Mayer here.
Okay.
So, now this is where I think Will Levis is going to come off the board, going to the Commanders. They do still have Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke. There's some other quarterbacks that they can maybe get in free agency if they don't feel like he's ready and they want him to sit for a year. But I just also look at who else is available and what their other needs are, and I just don't. I don't feel like this is a reach going at 16 for Will Levis.
I said it earlier. I like late teens, early 20s, I think is the prime zone for Will Levis and Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Let's see. We got him there. So now on to pick number 17 for me, the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line just needs improvement. The defense is doing well. They may be getting a little bit older, but I think that they can address that position in the draft later on. Anton Harrison right now for me is the top tackle. I'm going to go with Anton Harrison. Need to protect Kenny Pickett. Najee Harris, I think, can keep continuing to develop it into a top running back in the league. He just needs some blocking help. So I'm going to go. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma.
Okay.
So now they are back to the Lions, pick number 18, their second pick in the first round. I have Lucas Van Ness going here. I think that he would be a good complement on the outside of Aiden Hutchinson. And so I can also see them going Nolan Smith here as well. But I think Aiden Hutchinson adds so much attention that I think that he would be a good complement on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I like that.
So now off to Tampa Bay, just lost their quarterback, in case no one's heard, Tom Brady, officially retiring for good. So now they need a quarterback, but there's no quarterback really that I think that they want to take here. Very interesting. The Buccaneers can go a lot of different ways here. I'm going to go with Nolan Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia.
Okay.
I think they need to get younger here. I think they're fine in the receiver position. They got Rashad White, so I don't feel like they would take Bijan Robinson. Brian Branch, I think, also could be a good pick here too. There's a lot of different ways that they could go. They also could have gone corner as well. I didn't think about that, but it's too late now. So on to the Seahawks second pick as well. I am going to stick with the D. Who are they going to here? Who did the Seahawks pick for? They picked Myles Murphy.
Yeah, Myles Murphy.
So I am going to stick with the defense, and I am going to actually go corner here. I'm going to go Cam Smith.
Okay.
If they're going to be able to beat the 49ers to win the division, they're going to need to have some speedy, quick corners that can cover all areas of the field, and I think Cam is able to do that. Miami Dolphins forfeited their pick. Now the Los Angeles Chargers are up, and this is going to be curious to hear your thoughts on this. I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson here, actually, with this pick. Austin Eckler is in his last year. He's going to be 28, I believe, so a little bit on the older end. There's a lot of different other picks I think the Chargers could go here, but I think he would fit perfectly into that offense. Kellen Moore is now their offensive coordinator. I think Kellen Moore would love to find out what he can do with his new toy in Bijan Robinson, who is easily running back one in the league, in all dynasty leagues. And so I think the Chargers getting him here, they could go corner, but I think if they want to be able to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs in that offense, adding Bijan Robinson over the long run, I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
So Baltimore Ravens now on the clock. And for me, this is Jordan Addison. They just need to have a solid, stout receiver. So I'm going to go with Jordan Addison here. I think that is going to be the guy. I think he's still going to be available. Minnesota Vikings now on the clock. A lot of needs that the Vikings have. Surprised that offensive line is not one on this pick. I'm not going to go offensive line, even though I think it would be very wise of them to seriously consider Terrence. It's possible that Torrance could be taken sooner, but the Vikings secondary sucks. And so I'm going to go with Joey Porter here. I think Joey Porter's going to get really good having to guard Justin Jefferson in practice. I think that'd be great for him.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be good. They need it bad.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah. Moving on now to the Jags, and I just said his name, Torrance here as guard. I think it's just going to be a perfect fit for them, helping protect Trevor Lawrence, and also can continue to block for Travis Etienne. Giants now on the clock. My only thing, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too, because when I see Zay Flowers, I don't see too big a difference than Wan'Dale Robinson, who was having a good year before he tore his ACL. So I think that position is kind of already covered. But when it comes to other like first-round receivers, I think that they can get someone in the second round.
So Zay Flowers is much more of a route technician than Wan'Dale Robinson, but like I think Wan'Dale is 5'9" and Zay is 5'10" and a half.
Yeah.
They're both like around the 170, 180 pound range.
So yeah, I think size wise, like maybe he's a little bit better route running, but I think that they can get I think that they need a bigger receiver, and they get a Rashee Rice or an Xavier Hutchinson in the second round. So, kind of tough here for me, especially at this point. I see, if I'm being completely honest, when I've been doing my mock drafts, and I still don't know too much about him, but I see linebacker. I see Trenton Simpson is right here, so I don't think it'd be too big of a reach for them to go with Trenton Simpson, shore up that middle portion of the defense.
Yeah, no, I like that. They need some help on that second level, and I think Trenton Simpson could be the guy to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Now I will say, with the way this is working out now, once again, I just did it again. But where I just said his name, then the Cowboys, they're going to take Zay Flowers. I think that they need a younger receiver to go along the opposite side of CD Lamb. I think Zay Flowers is going to fit well there. A lot of other different points I think that they can address. I can also see them taking Saiki Ika out of Baylor. The big defensive tackle, but I think they're going to go offense. I think they like to get their weapons in the first round of the draft. So the Bills are now on the clock, and for me, they're getting a little bit older in the secondary, and Brian Branch has fallen all the way down. I don't think that they can pass up on Brian Branch. It also just kind of makes me question if I've done a good job on the mock draft when Brian Branch falls all the way to 27. But
I mean, there's a guy that does that every year. Kyle Hamilton fell to 19 last year.
Yeah,
or 18, and
and safety too is so safety as well as like a slower corner, but not big enough for a linebacker. Yeah. So they can always move him to a linebacker as well, which I also think that they need some help in.
I don't think he's that big. But he's a slot safety. He's going to play by the line of scrimmage. But he's also an Alabama guy. He's very versatile. So they'll be able to move him around in coverage, especially Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer will be back next year. And so having a third young safety under them to kind of learn, I think is a good move. So
yeah, I like that. So now moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals, they need to keep beefing up the interior, and Broderick Jones has fallen to them, and so that to me is going to be their number one guy to target. If there's not a lineman here, I can honestly see them then also getting the other side of the ball in the interior, someone with like Ika for Baylor as well. On now with the 29th pick. Which would have been the San Francisco 49ers, but then they traded that to Denver, and then Denver now just traded that pick to the New Orleans Saints for Sean Payton. And a lot of different ways that they can go here. Saints I feel like they've been in like not a rebuild, like avoiding a rebuild now for a long time. And a lot of different ways that they can go here. I'm going to go with BJ Ojulari. They have some edge rushers that are hitting free agency. And so I'm going to stick I think that they're going to kind of replenish some of those picks. Yeah. Moving on now to the Kansas City Chiefs, who will be playing in the Super Bowl here in next Sunday, in about 10 days from now. Receiver, that they can get someone in the second round. I've seen defensive line here. I think they're going to go Andre Carter with Army. This is someone to go alongside. Is it Chris Jones or Chandler Jones? I always get a mix up.
Chris Jones. Chandler Jones plays for the Raiders. Yeah,
that's who it is. Okay, yeah. So now the last pick of the first round, ending my mock draft here. 30 minutes, not bad. I think that there are going to be some offensive linemen that are going to be retiring from the Philadelphia Eagles, personally, I think Jason Kelce might retire after this game. I think there's also some other guys that might be leaving, so they're going to need to kind of replenish some of that talent and get some young legs in there. And for me, Cody Mock, I think, kind of would fit great into that system. Very quick, very strong. He dominated FCS. I think that he's going to be picking. I think he'll be an Eagle come May.
Okay, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is my first mock draft, official. Now that it is on the internet, I can't take it back. But nothing too crazy. It's always interesting to kind of see
where everybody ends up,
and then where everybody ends up. Like last year, we had the receiver run, and receivers that we weren't even thinking that would get taken ended up getting taken in the in the first round. Got taken in 16th or 18th or something like that because they were all going to be gone like by the next time. So guys just want to go get their guys now. So but yeah, that's it. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think you did good. So like a couple things that I might not have done. I like Paris Johnson a little bit better than Peter Skoronski, but you mentioned his size. The Raiders need offensive line help everywhere, so that is one of those things where it's like, okay, Peter Skoronski can come in and play left tackle, and if that doesn't work, we'll kick him in, and then he's a Pro Bowl guard. And so like I understand the pick. I like Jackson Smith-Njigba. I don't know if Quentin Johnson is quite the receiver the Patriots are looking for. The Patriots are really picky about receivers. And I just I don't know if he fits it. But I would love if Quentin Johnson falls 14 and the Patriots take him just off of the fact that, like, all right, you have a Devontae Adams-esque guy. You like teach him to run routes. He has good hands. He has the speed. He has the size already. Like, you went and got a blue chip prospect. And so like that's good. I mean, yeah, I think you did good. This is really similar to the one I did earlier today.
Well, it's so funny too how it's like, I mean, there's some guys that even in my other mock drafts I decided to pick here just because actually, you know what, it made sense just kind of in the moment, and how there's just the butterfly effect. It's like now this team, like there's one, like this is like the one guy that would really fill a need, and then he gets taken right before him, and now it's like, well, shoot, I don't really like any of the other guys.
Yeah, no, I get that
are now available for this team. So, a lot of interesting things. It's interesting too. I know when I picked him, I see him there. Pick number 21, Bijan Robinson. I can honestly see him even going up earlier than that. Like a team being like,
I do and I don't.
Well, but it's like I can see him being picked earlier, and I can also see him not being picked in the first round. You know, like I can see maybe the Eagles will take him, or the Chiefs will take him, like if he's there.
I don't. I think from 10, like maybe Washington. Maybe Green Bay if Aaron Jones becomes a cap casualty. But then it's like Detroit, DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. Steelers just drafted Najee Harris. They have Rashad White and then who was the Seahawks star running back?
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker. And so I'm like, that to me is where I get the cold feet on drafting him, especially like Kendre Miller right now is from TCU is expected to be an early day 3 pick. I'm like, okay, like Kendre Miller is a wonderful running back.
Absolutely.
So, and so I'm like, he can do 90% of things Bijan can do. And then I can go get a scat back that can is a true third down guy or a pass blocking specialist. Like that's kind of where I am with Bijan. So
no, it's gonna be fun. I'm glad to finally get that on there, and then we can save this one. But let's end this one, and then let's do a new mock draft, and then let's get.
I'll get it going.
I'm curious to see who your picks are.
All right, and the Chicago Bears are on the clock. So you had Will Anderson going first overall. I like that pick. However, I think Jalen Carter fits what the Bears want to do better. And I think he will thrive in the Chicago Bears defensive system. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Jalen Carter here.
I love it.
Again,
Yeah.
we talked about it with your draft. It's 1A, 1B, whoever you want.
That it's going to be whoever that they like the most.
Yeah.
And they can't go wrong with it at all.
Yeah.
So,
and then I'm going to flip it again. You had CJ Stroud or Bryce Young going to the Texans. I think CJ Stroud, everything you want in a quarterback. Elite arm talent, physically gifted, sees the field well. He shows up in pressure games and gives his team a chance to win. I'm gonna take CJ Stroud here. And then Arizona Cardinals. I like Will Anderson here. I just think you got to go best player available. They just lost JJ Watt. I think Will Anderson comes in and brings back that edge presence. And becomes kind of the leader of that defense.
I thought the way you said that, though, I thought you were about to go like Tyree Wilson or like Paris Johnson.
So
like I thought you were about to just absolutely blow it up.
So I have done that before. I actually like Brian Breesy a lot in this system. However, with all the coaching changes, I think they're just going to go best player available.
Yeah.
So Will Anderson, and then again, Colts, Bryce Young. I think that's just a really good fit. I've said it on the podcast before. I'm not a huge fan of Bryce Young because he's only like 5'10", like 175 pounds wet. However, I think in Indianapolis, he's coming into a strong offensive line with good weapons to throw to. And so I think Bryce Young can be very good in that system. I don't know if he will ever be elite. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fair. I think the floor for Bryce Young at minimum is like what we're starting to maybe see from like Kyler Murray. Like, I think he'll be an NFL starting quarterback. He's going to get a lot of rushing. He can win you some games, but can he take you to that next level? That's the question. But if his floor is like, will just be whatever, he'll be a versatile player.
Yeah.
Then I mean, that's worth the risk, obviously, taking him at number 4 compared to like Levis or Richardson, who can be just an absolute train wreck bust.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. My big thing is he'll turn into a Tua situation, and it's just like he's just too small. Like he just can't. He's just not big enough. And some of that, I think Tua plays smaller than he is. And I think Bryce Young might play a little bit bigger. I did hear an interesting take, and it was like if Bryce Young was 6 foot or 6'1", nobody would have any concerns. He'd be the consensus top quarterback without a doubt. And I'm like, okay, like I get that. Like I agree. Tua was kind of the same way, but there was a lot of questions about his injuries and things coming out. So anyways, back to the mock. At number 5, we have Seattle coming in here. I'm going with Brian Breesy here. His versatility on the line, I think, gives Pete Carroll goosebumps of just how exciting he can be. There were some injury concerns with Brian Breesy, and he had an illness. No, he had an illness, and then he missed time with a family thing.
Okay.
He was never actually injured. So there was a lot of misconception going around with that. But I like Brian Breesy a lot here.
Oh, I thought he did tear his ACL, though. Like his sophomore year.
He might have a long time ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah.
We can check into that, then we'll do another video about it.
Yeah. Here coming up with the Detroit Lions, I think they're going to get not TJ Hawkinson, Aiden Hutchinson, a running mate. I love Tyree Wilson's game. Oh my gosh. So we talked about it a little bit on yours. His speed to power and then versatility on the defensive line is nuts. It's honestly like it's nothing that I think I've seen in a very long time. I love Tyree Wilson's game. I love it. And I think Dan Campbell will love it as well. So then going to the Raiders, they have a multitude of ways that they can go. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I think they're going to go Paris Johnson Jr. here.
Okay.
They need to improve their tackle depth. He also played right guard at a really high level, and he is my first offensive lineman off the board.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about with mine. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. And I agree with you. It's something about just that 7th pick and the way the team is built, whereas I don't think they should take a quarterback here.
No, I don't think so either. I think if you want a quarterback, you roll with Jarrett Stidham, and then you pick top 5 next year. And then if lightning strikes in a bottle, Jarrett Stidham plays well, then you just stick with Jarrett Stidham. So yeah. I want your opinion on this, but AJ Terrell, top 5 corner in the NFL when healthy. And to me, I think Richie Grant started to play well for the Falcons last year, and I think that they could really do that pass rush some favors by solidifying the secondary and going with Devin Witherspoon. And I think that's a great 1-2 combo. AJ Terrell's a little bit bigger. Devin Witherspoon, I think, is a little bit smaller. They both very well-rounded corners. And I think that would do the pass rush a lot of favors as well. This is a really deep pass rushing class, as well as linebackers. So yeah, I like Devin Witherspoon to the Falcons. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, and that's a good point. Because especially with the depth, because even if you scroll down to like people who are ranked in the 30s and 40s, a lot of edge rushers are edge, multiple edge,
linebacker, corner,
So even some more safety. So in that 2nd pick, I can absolutely see them going that route, especially if they go with Devin Witherspoon. The corner is definitely going to be a need. They have Casey Hayward, but I forget if he's a free agent or if maybe he has one more year, but he's a little bit older. So having some younger legs in there, I think would be great to go alongside AJ Terrell. This is what I said with like my other pick. It's like, I don't think the Falcons can go wrong. The wrong pick would be like Will Levis or another quarterback. But in this scenario, you have Miles Murphy, Brian Branch, Peter Skoronski still there, Christian Gonzalez. Even if they wanted to go with a receiver, I actually wouldn't dislike that pick. Someone to go alongside Drake London. Then you'd have
I think there'll be a lot of guys they can complement Drake London with later.
I agree. Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting. To watch.
They're just, for me, I think that pick is just as good as the one as mine when Tyree Wilson was there. If you would take a Miles Murphy, I think that would have been a good one as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so Carolina Panthers are up. They could take Will Levis here, but I think he's just a little too much of a project for what they want. The defense played really well, but for me, the biggest thing that hindered that team last year was that offensive line. Peter Skoronski, I think at the next level, projects more as a guard or right tackle just with his length. And I just think when he gets up to that level at left tackle, I have some concerns, but they drafted Akim Ekwonu last year, who is going to be their left tackle. I think Peter Skoronski, you can play left guard, right tackle, and really start to solidify that offensive line with Peter Skoronski.
Yep. I like it.
And then like a complete luxury pick here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Some of their pass rush might be leaving in free agency, and a top 10 caliber pass rusher just falls right in their lap, and Miles Murphy. That's just nuts to me. But it's going to happen. So, all right, Tennessee Titans on the clock. The defense for them last year was actually pretty good, so I'm going to avoid that. However, I think Quentin Johnson, they need an outside threat to open up the middle of the field. They drafted Kyle Phillips last year, who's a guy I was really high on. But he got injured, and hopefully he'll be coming back. But I think Quentin Johnson pulls that coverage off the middle, really opens up the field for Kyle Phillips. And then that run game, this is a fairly deep offensive line class. And then in the second round, they'll definitely be able to draft like a Darnell Wright to come in and fill in that role. So
when you say Kyle Phillips, do you mean Treylon Burks?
No, Kyle Phillips, Treylon Burks also, but Treylon Burks I think plays more on the other side of the line. Kyle Phillips is a slot receiver that they drafted in the 4th round.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
that.
He was out of UCLA. One of my favorite receiver prospects from last year.
Oh, okay.
Draft Quentin Johnson. All right. Houston Texans. They just drafted CJ Stroud. They have a solid left tackle, but to me, I look at Michael Mayer there. CJ Stroud loved his tight ends at Ohio State. I'm going to get him the best rated tight end in college football last year in Michael Mayer.
All right. Yeah, that's one. It's like you talk about luxury picks with the Eagles. That's another one where, like, for the Texans, you're like, well, you just take who. Let's take whatever. It's actually they're literally in the same spot as the Lions were last year.
Yeah, and so for me, Michael Mayer, excellent blocker, excellent receiving threat. He's not an elite athlete, but he's kind of reminds me of like Hayden Hurst. It's just like, okay, he just gets open, right? Like he's fast enough. He runs really good routes. Like he has super consistent hands, and like I think that helps Dameon Pierce a ton because they're going to be able to basically use him as like a plus lineman. And I just like that pick there. So coming here with the Jets, it says they need a tackle, but I don't really agree. I'm going to go with Cam Smith, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Outside of Sauce Gardner, their defense was not very good. Or their secondary was just not very good.
Yeah.
Actually, hold on. I'm going to take that back. I'm switching this up right now. I'm going with Brian Branch because over the top, they were susceptible outside of Sauce Gardner. Brian Branch, super versatile safety. And I really like what what's the coach's name? I can picture him. Robert Saleh can do with a versatile guy like Brian Branch. Also, their safety is leaving. There is a pending free agent this year.
Yeah. Okay. So then him falling to him is just
No, that's
scenario.
As soon as I said the Cam Smith thing, I was like, oh wait, they need to replace a safety.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now we get to the New England Patriots. A lot of different ways I could go here. These receivers are very, very tempting, as well as Broderick Jones. However, I gotta go with Zay Flowers.
Okay.
Zay Flowers is electric, and I really like Jackson Smith-Njigba, but what Zay Flowers' ceiling is like, I heard a guy, he said he's Deshaun Jackson meets Jalen Waddle. And just what he can do with the football in his hands is so enticing. The separation he can create off the line is incredible. And he was just out at the Shrine Bowl and apparently interviewed really, really well. And so I'm on the Zay Flowers hype train. I just love that pick. So
okay, that's for me. That's the one. I'd bet money right now that the Patriots trade back because it seems like they always do.
Yeah,
but if they end up staying here, though, receiver is definitely a spot that they need. And I think that they have a lot of good options. I think they can. I don't think that they could go wrong with Jackson Smith. I don't think they can go wrong with Jordan Anderson, or Zay Flowers here. So that's the spot that they really need help in because when who's the guy? Jacoby Myers, he's a great slot receiver, possession guy, but he's not your number one. Like when he's your number one, that's a mistake.
He's also a free agent this year.
Okay, that too. Yeah. I can see him signing him back.
I hope so. The problem is he's the best receiver in free agency this year. And so there's like he might get 13 million from somebody. And like, I agree. I don't think he's worth 10, 9, 10, not 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, moving on to the Green Bay Packers. Look, like you said, looks like Jordan Love is going to be taken over. A guy that I actually like is Jackson Smith-Njigba here at wide receiver. Randall Cobb is old.
Mm-hmm.
Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson both kind of play on the outside.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think will tear apart the middle of the field on those defenses.
Well, and that's what's interesting too, because I think they can get very creative with that. Because Jackson Smith, he can also play on the outside, but it also seems like Christian Watson is versatile enough and quick enough to where he can also seem like they can move him into the slot and he can run up the middle of the field. So I think if you add him in there, that was going to be a very fun offense to have.
If you're Aaron Rodgers, how pissed would you be if for years you've been begging them to draft a first round wide receiver and then they trade you and draft a first round wide receiver?
Probably pretty upset. Yeah, probably pretty upset.
So, like you, I'm gonna have Will Levis go into the Commanders though. I just think that's the fit. That's the team that I think needs him, but they also have the flexibility to let him develop.
Yeah.
So Will Levis, I think, is going to go here. Steelers, I'm going with Broderick Jones right here. He's my tackle 3. Him and Trent Williams side by side are almost identical physically. Broderick Jones is just a little raw. And honestly, there's nobody more that I trust than Mike Tomlin and that Steelers staff to come in and develop a solid left tackle. And so I like Broderick Jones there. I think in 3 years in Pittsburgh, he'll be an all-pro left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit Lions, second pick. Who did I have them take earlier? Tyree Wilson, the edge. They don't need anything offensive. And so I'm actually going to go with Trenton Simpson here. Best linebacker in the class, can do a little bit of everything. But I think adding Tyree Wilson and Trenton Simpson to that front really helps start to solidify that defense.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a good mix there.
Well, and that's one of the things too. And you mentioned like with the Falcons pick it, Devin Witherspoon, so then it helps out the pass rush. I think it can also work in reverse, as if you improve the pass rush, then the secondary, you can kind of get away with a weak secondary. If you're consistently just getting after the quarterback. And we saw massive improvement from the Lions in that defense. And and with these 2 picks now, I mean, man, that's going to be fun. I hope their offense keeps moving forward. I hope James Williams can come in and just take that offense to a next level, because the Lions could be good next year. They could be really good.
Yeah. No, I agree. What they have going there, I think Dan Campbell likes Trenton Simpson, would like Trenton Simpson and Tyree Wilson, both the way those guys play. So next up, going to Tampa Bay. They're going to need help on the outside. I think Jamel Dean is leaving, as well as one of their safeties. And I think Christian Gonzalez is the perfect guy to kind of come in. He matches that physical style of play that defense wants to play. And he's my, I think, number 2 corner on my list. So,
okay, I like it.
So I'm going to go.
Yeah. And the mock drafts I've done to this point, like when it comes to Tampa, it's like I don't really love or hate any of the picks. It's just kind of one of those, just like let's just take whoever's going to fit on our board. And so, like, you could say honestly, like Anthony Richardson's there. I mean, maybe they take a quarterback now with Tom Brady's gone, but I don't know. I've seen a lot of mocks also Bijan Robinson going there. So, but it's not really one that I love going to Tampa.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, they have a lot of needs. I think they're kind of in best player available. The only thing, that front 7 to me is still pretty solid. Vita Vea, Devin White. Who's their other linebacker? I'm
blanking on it.
I forget it right now. It's going to hit me in like 3 picks. Okay. Seattle Seahawks. I think this is probably where Anton Harrison comes off the board. He's a little light. I want to say, for a tackle. And I think he has versatility to kind of play across the line. He'll probably start out at right tackle because they did just draft.
Not Charles Cross. No, is it Charles Cross?
It is Charles Cross. Yeah, they just drafted Charles Cross last year. So I think Anton Harrison comes in at right tackle to help solidify that offensive line. So
I like it.
Right. Dolphins forfeited. Here we are at the Chargers. I'm going to go with Jordan Addison here. Keenan Allen getting up there in age. I want to say he's 30 or 31, and a lot of miles on him. He's a potential trade candidate this year, and so I think they bring in a younger version of him to kind of keep up the passing weapons there.
Yeah, so, I can get that. However, Jordan Palmer starting to come along. Mike Williams, when healthy, is good. I think they can re-sign DeAndre Carter as well. So there's kind of a receiving core, and they can kind of mix and match. I think that they would go corner first before they would go with Jordan Addison. I know I took Bijan Robinson, so I'm not.
Yeah,
I know I'm not coming in with anything too enlightening.
Yeah,
but
my thing is so like Jordan Addison will primarily play out of the slot. Mike Williams and Jordan Palmer.
That's true.
They primarily play on the outside. They don't really have a extreme tight end threat. I know what's their name had a good year for them. What's his name?
Gerald Everett.
Gerald Everett, yeah. Gerald Everett had a good year, but he's not an elite tight end threat. There's not really an elite tight end on the board. So like that all said, I also think J.C. Jackson's coming back. Asante Samuel Jr. will be there as well. So I think they have a bit of a luxury here. So this is a complete projection pick, but I don't think the Ravens are going to sign Lamar Jackson back. I use the analogy, they're like a couple that is fighting, and then Lamar Jackson refused to play in the playoff game. So that was kind of like the final straw in the couple's argument. And now I think they just are going to break up. And so I think they're going to go with Anthony Richardson. He's a big project. However, if they can fine tune and improve his passing like they did with Lamar's, I think they have a much better quarterback.
Yeah.
And Tyler Huntley is going to play this year. There's no doubt about that. Well, if Lamar Jackson doesn't come back. And they need to improve their weapons, but there's a lot more weapons to be drafted later in the draft. And Anthony Richardson's tools are hard to come by. So
I see the Cam Newton comparison a lot and see that. And so if he can improve on his consistency, I mean, he's got an arm, he is huge, he can run, especially then with the style of play that they like to have with running the ball a lot. I can see him fitting well into that offense. And his lack of throwing consistency is okay because they don't really have anyone to throw to outside of their tight end. So it's like a win-win.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they were able to show incremental improvements in Lamar's passing game. If they can do that with him, they'll have a much better passer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think there's something to say too, because I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are on this, but there's something to say about a running quarterback who kind of runs like Anthony Richardson, kind of runs like Josh Allen, where they'll bulldoze you, and Daniel Jones. Yeah. I think they can take a little bit more wear and tear, but then you see someone like Lamar Jackson, who is a finesse type guy. When they get dinged up, they seem to degrade. Their body seems to degrade a little bit quicker.
Yeah, a lot quicker. And so I like that fit a lot, actually, with Anthony Richardson going there. It'll be interesting, again, to see if he can develop, but they showed that they could do it with Lamar. Maybe they can do it twice. So, excuse me. All right. Minnesota Vikings are on the clock. I think Lucas Van Ness comes off here. I don't think he's a great scheme fit. However, he's the best edge rusher on the board. And I think he can bring a very physical presence to the front of that defense that really, really needs it. They could also go Joey Porter, but I'm going to go edge. There's more length at corner later on in the draft. And there's not a lot of Lucas Van Nesses. So,
yeah. And that's a good point too about getting corners later, but because they just need everything on that defense.
Yeah.
Like, did I say defensive line, linebacker, and corner? Or is that defensive interior?
I think it's defensive interior, linebacker, and corner, but they need edge rushers too.
They need
it all.
That's literally every spot.
Yeah.
on defense.
Yeah. So, Jacksonville, they have Travis Etienne. I'm not really interested in Bijan here. Nolan Smith would be good. However, I'm going to go Cam Smith out of South Carolina. Put another corner on the boundary. Just a guy that can keep up with Indianapolis, with the Texans having Brandon Cooks, and then the Titans getting Quentin Jefferson. Getting a corner like Cam Smith, I think, would be good. So
yeah, I personally, those four names right there, Nolan Smith down to Torrance, any of those four guys, I think would be good picks.
So, all right, I'm going to do another projection pick here. I think the Giants let Saquon leave in free agency. And then I think they're going to draft Bijan Robinson. Get him on a rookie contract. He'll be a lot cheaper than re-signing Saquon. I'm not a huge fan of running backs in the first round. However, you have to acknowledge generational talent when you see it. And I think Bijan is Saquon 2.0. So,
but that is his comp. That is like literally what everyone's comparing him to.
Yeah. And so I think that's a better deal. I would like to see them get Daniel Jones more weapons. However, at this point in the draft, there's just not that.
Well, and if you were to keep scrolling, there should be receivers in like the 50 to 60 range, which is about when they would be picking again. So
Parker Washington, not super high.
Yeah,
about as high as PFF on him, but
Rashee Rice. You'd have Xavier Hutchinson, Tank Dell from Houston.
He's having a great Senior Bowl. So next up, Dallas Cowboys. They have a bunch of tight ends. I hate doing this because I really like Josh Downs, and I would hate to see him go to Dallas. But I think he's the speed threat that they need, because CeeDee Lamb is very quick, but he's not the straight line guy. And I think he's just that inside receiver that would complement CeeDee Lamb really, really well. So I think Josh Downs goes to Dallas here. So let's see what Mike McCarthy can do with him.
Not much.
Yeah. So everybody made fun of the Patriots for taking a guard in the first round last year. I'm gonna have the Bills do it this year. Osiris Torrance.
It wasn't the fact that he took the guard in the first round.
It was Cole Strange from UT Chattanooga. I get it. Yeah. Oh man.
No, I do like that pick though.
Yeah, I like it. Good. They need to get more physical in the trenches to establish a more consistent run game, and I think Osiris Torrance does that for them. Pretty handily. So
and I wouldn't be surprised too if the Bills also draft a running back again later on in this draft. Because I don't think I think Devin Singletary's gone. James Cook maybe has some potential, but I think that they want to have a running back by committee type atmosphere. And there's a deep running back class I think that they can add onto that I can also catch in the backfield as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Perfect pick right here, Joey Porter Jr. for the Cincinnati Bengals. At one point, he is a lot of people's cornerback one. Some people have him as a top 10 pick. And the Bengals are going to get him here at 28. I like it. So, and then next up, this is a guy that I really like on tape. Oh, I'm sorry. We're at the Saints. My bad. I got excited there. The Saints are in a really interesting spot. You said this. They are in a very big rebuilding stage. And I think they're going to get a young linebacker in Drew Sanders. Drew Sanders I don't know if you know much about him, but former Alabama edge rusher, transferred to Arkansas and played middle linebacker. Oh my gosh, does he pop on tape? He's extremely athletic, 6'4", 235, 240, hits like a Mack truck, plays fairly well in coverage, really fluid athlete. I think he's the perfect Saints prospect at linebacker. I know they don't necessarily need one.
Well, they're
but
just kind
I
of
love that prospect.
They're just kind of in a weird spot where it's like they just need a little bit of everything. They're in salary cap hell, and they just need everything.
Okay. Up next, Dalton Kincaid going to the Kansas City Chiefs. I love his film. Very physical, extremely competitive at the catch point, blocks fairly well. I know they have a 3 tight end system going on down there already. However, Dalton Kincaid comes in and is immediately tight end number 2. And I don't want this to happen, but Travis Kelce is 33 or 34. He's pushing like 9 1,000-yard seasons in a row. Like he's just getting up there in miles. And bringing in a guy like Dalton Kincaid, I think helps Travis Kelce take some of the load off of him. And I think it gives the Chiefs another weapon. So
no, I can see that pick.
Yeah. So, and the Chiefs are known for being aggressive a little bit in the first round and picking mostly skill position players. So, who did I pick earlier for the Eagles? Myles Murphy. That's right. So, Eagles here at 31. There was a center that I really liked, who I cannot seem to find. Is that him? I think that's him. Anyways, there's a center at the Senior Bowl. I want to say it's John Michael Schmitz. But like you said, Jason Kelce could retire after the game next weekend. John Michael Schmitz is a riser on people's draft boards. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I want to say it's John Michael Schmitz. He's a big riser at the Senior Bowl at the center position for a lot of people. Fringe first rounder. I think the Eagles, they have very few holes to fill. And I think John Michael Schmitz takes it.
Yeah, for the Eagles especially, they have so much talent around, and a lot of it's veteran talent. But I think that they will be able to utilize, especially that first pick, to draft a guy who will be a staple, I think, for that defensive front, and then beefing up that offensive line. We've talked consistently on this channel about how important the trenches are, and those are their first 2 picks. And so, good job. Yeah, like it's funny. It's just going to come down to preferences. Like I remember the first year that we started this, it was the Trevor Lawrence draft class, and so it was like Trevor Lawrence hands down number 1. And then over time, it came like, okay, the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson at number 2. And then when we saw 49ers go up, like, okay, it's another quarterback. So it was like the top 10, top 15 picks. You can kind of figure out who was going to go there, or who was going to go where, maybe like with the little variation, which then had the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
But here, that stops at 4. Out once when you get to the Seahawks pick, it is fair game. Anybody could get taken anywhere. So I can see the Seahawks maybe taking a quarterback that a lot of people have mentioned. Maybe they'll do that. I don't think they will. I don't think they should.
I hope not. Not at 5.
I hope not as well. At 20, I could see 20. I can. That's one. Also, too, because then it's a luxury pick. Take Anthony Richardson if he is available.
So I know this is my mock, but one of the things that I found interesting, a lot of the teams that are really competitive, Eagles, edge, center, kind of what you just said, Seahawks, defensive line, tackle, who are the other ones with?
Lions, edge, and then linebacker.
Yeah. So all trenches, pretty much. Linebacker, he can play on the edge as well. So,
and then Texans, a team that are not competitive, star players.
Yeah. Well, okay, but to be fair, those are the big pieces that they're
Oh,
missing.
no. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
And that's where it goes to show, like, you look at the Eagles, for example. They're made the Super Bowl. They have a great team, but they have a great 53-man team. They win in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And they have a lot of star power, yes, but they wouldn't be – Jalen Hurts wouldn't be that guy if it wasn't for how good the offensive line is. Miles Sanders wouldn't be that guy if it wasn't as good for the offensive line is. And so Darius Slay might not be the guy if their defensive front wasn't that good,
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree.
But I like this. Definitely some projections. I would have gone a couple of different routes on some picks, like the Vikings, for example. But you made good points, though, about how there's cornerbacks later on. Those first 15 picks, it's just –
yeah.
It's like I don't disagree with any of them. Like, there's solid reasons to take these guys. I think everyone is kind of in the right order.
Yeah.
They could see, like, I think for my draft, Brian Breezy fell to 13. I could see that happening. By the same time, the Seahawks are getting a great pick at number 5. So this is going to be a fun offseason to kind of develop, to watch as it develops and to get more information.
So I have a question. If the Seahawks took Paris Johnson at 5, would you discredit that? Would you be like, why would they do that?
No, I wouldn't. No, because it goes to the same reason then why in your pick, John Michael Schmitz gets taken by the Eagles. He's their best tackle. It is just proven to have a successful offense. Unless if you're the Cincinnati Bengals last year, to have a successful offense, you need to have a great offensive line or above average offensive line at minimum. But Geno Smith back there, and then if they want to continue have Kenneth Walker grow, you want to have a solid offensive line and depth at minimum. So, because injuries happen in the league. So even then, that's why like the Raiders took Paris Johnson 2 picks later, and I think that's a much better pick than maybe taking Will Levis, someone who might not even start this year, and it might not be the guy that you're looking for. So.
No, I agree. Yeah. And so that's like this draft from, like you said, from 5 to really even 20, I think is just going to be chaos. Like we are most likely going to know who is going to go in that range, but where is just a huge question. And that doesn't even bring in guys, Cam Smith, Joey Porter Jr., Drew Sanders, in my opinion, could be a riser.
Osiris Torrance. He's the only true guard. And so there are teams that are happy with their tackles. I could see him rising and then getting the best guard.
So like Kenyon Green went 13 last year, and Zion Johnson from Boston College went, I think, 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, those are 2 guards that went top 20. And Osiris Torrance projects to be that good.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting draft. Let's go ahead. Let's switch gears. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what the Bears are going to do at number 1, because to me, as the draft process continues further and further on, you're going to see a greater separation between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. And there's quarterback needy teams, i.e. Indianapolis Colts,
Houston
Texans, Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to put the Falcons in that mix. I don't know if they are as needy as some of the other teams.
Yeah.
Carolina Panthers, not really the New York Jets. So I guess those 5 teams, right? Texans, Colts, Raiders, Falcons, Panthers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to be fair too, they're really looking for just 2 quarterbacks. I don't at the end of all this, I don't see Will Levis or Anthony Richardson being taken in the top 10. I'll gladly eat my words, but there's enough film on them, and if they were to be talked about that, I think they're getting a lot of hype, just like how a lot of the quarterbacks last draft got a lot of hype just because it's the quarterback position. And Kenny Pickett was the only guy taken in the first round.
And
he was the only guy taken in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah. And for me, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, but Anthony Richardson to a lesser extent, project to be a Josh Allen type project where it's going to be 3+ years before this guy is really competing at a high NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
However, Will Levis does not quite have the same physical upside that Josh Allen has, and his tape is a little bit worse.
Yeah.
I get Josh Allen played at Wyoming. So, again, I think Bryce Young and CJ Stroud will continue to separate themselves, and I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on Indianapolis to get in front of Houston to take their guy, right? Instead of just letting one fall to them. But also, if Chicago refuses to trade that pick, Houston's obviously not going to trade. Now the Cardinals become a trade target, and you have 7, 8, 9, the pick 7, 8, 9, all trying to move up in front of the Colts.
Yeah.
And so if you're Chicago, are you fielding offers for this?
Are you fielding offers for it?
Yeah, I mean,
that's not the question. Of course, they're fielding offers.
They're fielding offers.
What is the minimum that they would take for this pick?
That's what I was.
Yeah. Of course, they're fielding offers for this pick. Yeah. Like absolutely. I mean, they need to give Lovie Smith a raise. I think, and he's not even hired with them. But it's like, hey, here's $10 million. We just want to give you $10 million. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. Because this Texans were not going to trade back at all. So, and trading up to the second spot where the Bears could have been, compared to now we're at the number 1 spot, it gives them at least another first round draft pick of leverage than compared to number 2. Like even if the Colts just went up to number 2, maybe first this year and first next year. I was like, they trade the first this year and then first next year. Going up to number 1 though, now having the first pick, getting a say in everything, jumping over all these teams. Now it's a bidding war. Yeah. And so it got them at least another first round pick. I think it'll be 3 first round picks, even for the Colts, just because the Raiders, that's what the Raiders are going to have to offer just for them to go back to 7.
Let me look. What did the 49ers offer to get up to 3?
3 first round picks, because this was still their first round pick. The Broncos would have had their first round pick still. If it wasn't for them trading then to the Saints for Sean Payton.
Yeah, 3 first-round picks.
It was 2?
No, 3. Well,
okay.
That year's and then 2 more.
Okay,
yeah. So, in my opinion...
And that's from 12 to 3.
That was from 12 to 3. However, I think if you're looking at going from 9 to 1, that's the same difference. No.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much. From 9 to 1.
Well, but
you're offering at least 3 firsts plus a second and a third.
Yeah. So it would be at least 3 firsts and then a lot more other picks. Because also another thing too, comparing that 49ers pick as well, is you're trading up, and it was well known. You're trading up for the 3rd best quarterback. Now you're trading up for the best quarterback.
Yeah,
which is a much bigger difference.
You're also trading up for the 3rd best quarterback in a group of 5 quarterbacks. Now you're trading up for the best quarterback in a group of 2.
Yeah,
and so it's like there's a lot more reason to get up there. Mm-hmm. For me, if I'm the Bears, I don't really want them going. I don't really want to help out the NFC teams as much.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will have to pay even more on top of even more, just because they're in the NFC. I get they're not in the division, but still.
Yeah. No, I get that. No, that's a good point. So like the Panthers, I don't think the Panthers will trade up. Like just for that point alone, they would have to. They have a new coach. They need to go through rebuild. Last thing that they want to do is mortgage their future and draft picks. So I think that's out. Josh McDaniels has a year under his system. They have, how much did they get for the Devontae Adams trade? How
much did they spend?
Yeah, spend. I'm trying to remember what the draft capital was.
All the picks were last year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Uh,
Well, that's not horrible then.
I
Oh,
want to
yeah,
say it was
because
like a first and a second, and then like a fifth.
because the Packers had 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So, they potentially could. The ones to me, I think, are going to be
Yeah, it was a 1 and a 2.
yeah. If you're the Bears, and this is an interesting point though, actually too, is you also have to think is how badly do these teams want to get in front of the Texans, or do they just want to get in front of the Colts and guarantee that second QB?
So I don't think the price changes all that much for the Raiders or the Falcons to the Colts, because the Colts have to, if they want a quarterback, they have to get up to 1.
Yeah, and if you're the Bears, like I think that you're absolutely asking for that same thing, because the Bears are in a spot where we need everything except QB. So the more draft picks that you can get, like this needs to be a high price to pay. And I was thinking about it too. If you're the Colts, you do need to address the offensive line, but you kind of have some of the pieces there. Like they can afford, I think, to maybe mortgage like their youth a little bit, because you still have Jonathan Taylor that's there. Their offensive line can need some improvements and get some health. Yes. But that can be done through offseason, or even picking a guy like Cody Mock in the second round or third round or something like that. And their defense was good last year. I think that's one of the things that people aren't just really noticing, just because they did blow that lead against the Vikings, and then also they had a horrible fourth quarter against the Dallas Cowboys. But if you look at the sum of the whole of their season, their defense actually was fairly solid. They have some guys hitting free agency.
Defense was top 5 in the NFL.
It was okay.
Yeah.
So even with those games like there, they just couldn't get anything going on offense with a quarterback.
Yeah.
So for me to kind of sum it all up, I think the Bears absolutely trade this pick. I think you try and get the best offer possible, because you need to address so much, and this is a multi-year rebuild that you're going through. And they have a lot of extra picks this year already. From trading Robert Quinn, and then who was the other guy?
Roquan Smith.
And Roquan Smith. They had the number one. They had the most projected cap space going into this offseason. I think you absolutely take advantage of this situation. Even if you fall back to 4, Will Anderson, yes, is number 1. So you fall back to 4, then you get Tyree Wilson. And drop off only just because of how great Will Anderson is.
Jalen Carter also is in the mix.
Well, and Jalen Carter's also there. That's assuming the Cardinals don't take him as well.
Yeah.
But if you're the Bears, you have every reason to get rid of this pick, because Will Anderson will be a huge improvement. But then if you get Tyree Wilson plus then all the other future additional first round picks that you're going to get, I think can immediately make this team into a contender 2 years from now.
No, I agree. I think if you look at a lot of what sports franchises have done in the past to get successful, I'm going to go over the NBA here, but do you remember when the Boston Celtics traded Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to the Brooklyn Nets for first round picks over the next 6 years?
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that, they drafted Jaylen Brown, Jason
Tatum?
Yeah, Jason Tatum. I kept wanting to say Jason Hayward, but I know it was Gordon Hayward, who they eventually had. Jason Tatum, and then one other guy. And now the Celtics are the 1 seed in the East Conference in the NBA. And I think the NFL, while different because it's harder to consistently draft those star players. It's pretty similar. Look at what the Eagles are doing right now with all the draft capital that they've had. They're not only drafting good players, but they're also trading the excess draft capital to whoever to the Titans for AJ Brown. And so for me, I think having a surplus of first round picks over the next year or over the next 3 to 4 years is, and I hate to say it, is better than what Will Anderson or Jalen Carter at 1 can do for you.
Yeah. Also, too, if you look at the picks for next year, though, especially if we're looking at the receiving core, you have Marvin Harrison Jr. coming up, and then who's the other receiver on Ohio State? Amika Ibuka, I think. Yeah. And so, I mean, those two guys right there are probably going to be top 10 picks. It is extremely possible you trade with the Colts, you might have 2 top 10 picks. You could get both of those receivers, and then boom, you're receiving. I don't know if you double up on receiver, but they could both be available, and it allows for that growth, that talent.
Yeah. Well, shoot. Even if you trade back with the Raiders, right? You get the Raiders. I think the Raiders are more likely to suck next year than the Colts, just because of how strong that division is. Now Sean Payton is in Denver. Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator in LA. Like that division.
That division's loaded.
Division is loaded. So like you have a very solid chance of a top 15 pick next year with that trade with Las Vegas, and the years to come. And it's like, okay, so then you get Paris Johnson to protect Justin Fields. That only helps the running game. And then this draft is pretty deep at receiver. If you're trading back with Las Vegas, you're getting that at least 2 more first rounds and probably 2 more seconds. Like that's a huge trade offer. And so I think it's really interesting to see what's going to come of the Chicago Bears at number 1. But I mean, they hold the cards right now with it. So it'll be interesting to see.
I think it's going to be fun to watch. The Bears, by the first overall pick, I think the Bears will trade, or by the time that they're on the clock, that they will have traded the first overall.
I think it'll be a pre-draft trade. I think after the combine, before the draft.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I think that is going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Take. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Tyler and I are going to be putting out a lot more content. I cannot stress that enough. We're going to be posting, going live at least twice a week and posting videos almost all the other days. So if you guys have not already, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so we can let you know whenever we post, and we'll see you.